What's up, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of the CHGO Bears Podcast. As always, training camp coverage on the CHGO Bears Podcast is presented by Ray Chevrolet. Shop the Freedom to Save sales event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. Serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive. What's going on, everybody? I'm your host, Nicholas Moreano, and to, I guess, my left, your right, however this works, is the beautiful Greg Braggs Jr. Greg, how you doing, man?
The beautiful Greg Braggs Jr. I like that. Appreciate you. I'm doing good, man. It's our first preview show of the season, so that's exciting. That means we're getting real close to week 1. What are we, 23 days away?
Roshan Johnson, yeah.
Devin Hester, sir.
I know the Bears posted Roshan. You already know we are Devin Hester fans over here.
Devin Hester, Hall of Fame days away from week 1 of the regular season. So, yeah, we're going to be having a lot of fun this year. We're going to be talking to different beat writers from the different teams to kind of set us up for each week. But I thought this was a unique week to bring on the other side because they were not only are going to preview what's to expect on Saturday, but give us a perspective of what they saw at yesterday's practice as well. So it's always kind of good to hear a fresh perspective on the teams we've watched, at training camp for, the last few weeks and for you guys for a few months now.
Yeah, so it's going to be awesome. We have some good things planned for you guys this season. And even before we get to our awesome interview that we had with Jay Morrison from the Pro Football Network about the Bengals, real quickly, if you haven't already, you got to go subscribe to the 85 with Cole Kmet. He's going to bring great coverage throughout the season from his teammates, himself, from these games. So make sure not only are you subscribed to our CHGO Bears podcast and all of our CHGO podcasts, but also go give a subscribe to the 85 with Cole Kmet. But we do have an awesome interview with Jay Morrison, and we're going to play that right now and get his perspective on the Bengals and what he saw from Thursday's training camp practice. We're joined by Jay Morrison, Bengals beat reporter for Pro Football Network. Jay, I know we were both at this rainy joint practice on Thursday. I just want to know, have you ever covered a practice that was like that before?
No. When the rain comes down like that, the Bengals usually go inside, and if there's storms, they'll just outright cancel it. There's been a little bit where there's been some raining. I remember there's a practice last year. It was coming down a little heavier than you would like. And the thing is, the Bengals facility is kind of the same as the Bears, where there's nowhere really to go. So I went into one of the food tents for the fans and kind of hid out in there for a couple minutes while it rained. But that was almost the entire practice. I wasn't expecting that. I kept looking at the radar like, oh, it looks like it's going to break up here in a little bit. And then another wave would come through. And so it was, thank God I had an umbrella. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg.
No, it's just interesting just because, if they had gone inside, how much they would have had to cut the field in half and really cut down on the reps or make the practice longer.
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll just start, in terms of, what we're going to find out here on Saturday in terms of how they're going to play. But I want to start with where the practice was for you from your perspective. We as Bears fans and media, we're so close to it. We see it every day, but it's interesting to get, a fresh look at a team that you saw for the first time. So, what were your biggest takeaways from watching the Bengals take on the Bears and knowing where the Bengals have kind of come here these last few years, and then looking at that in comparison to what the Bears are capable of?
Yeah. So most of my focus was on the Bengals offense, and I would look to the other field and watch the defense if it was kind of between plays. So I didn't get a good look at Caleb and the offense. I knew we'll get to see some of him on Saturday. So I was really focused on that. And I was impressed with the Bears defense, how active they were. And I mean, I don't know. I didn't ask Joe in the post game if I can't imagine he's ever had 3 interceptions in a practice before. The Bears could have had a couple more. They had their hands on a couple other ones that they could have pulled in, and the rain had something to do with that. The Bengals I had them with 8 drops. T. Higgins alone had 4, and one of the interceptions came off of a drop that went off of Trent Irwin's hands. But yeah, I was impressed with that Bears defense, and what I saw from the offense. They beat. There's a cornerback battle going on with the Bengals with Dax Hill and DJ Turner, and Dax got beat on a couple slants. DJ Moore got him once. I think Rome got him once too. So I did see those plays, and I don't know. I've been watching Hard Knocks too. I love the show. So again, kind of getting familiar with the Bears through that as well. I think every year there's that one team that kind of jumps up and has a surprise season. I don't know how much of a surprise it would be, because I think it is a pretty decent roster for, a team that was picking where the Bears were picking. But I think they're in for a good year. I know it's a tough division, but I think the Bears are going to be a very, very fun team to watch this year.
Jay, obviously saying that you were focusing more on that Bengals offense, and they were missing, Jamar Chase out there. How much of a difference does he make for that Bengals offense when he is out there with, T. Higgins and the rest of the playmakers that the Bengals do have?
Yeah, it's just a ripple effect. I mean, if you got Jamar and T out there, you can count on them to win most of the times, and that gives Joe all kinds of choices. And you take him out of the mix, and now you're talking about T. Higgins as your wide receiver one, and then it's Andre Yoshivas, who was a 6th-round pick last year, and he's really coming along and playing well. And then Jermaine Burton, the rookie 3rd-round pick, and it's just a lot of guys that don't win as frequently. So it just kind of trickles through that offense, and Joe has to process a little bit more, go through his progressions more, and he's a guy that likes to just see the field, know where he's going before he gets the snap, read it and go quick. And so that was a lot of the issues yesterday. It's been the issue all along. Jamar has not practiced yet this entire camp, but you hold the ball a little bit longer, and it gets a little dicier. And they always say don't throw the ball over the middle late, and Burrow doesn't adhere to that. If he sees a guy get crack free, he will do that, and he puts the ball in danger sometimes that way. I don't know in a game that he would do that, but I think you see that in training camp with a lot of quarterbacks. They use training camp and practices to really kind of test their limits, and I think that was part of what we saw yesterday. I don't think any of the interceptions had anything to do with that. The one, I can't remember who caught which one for the Bears, but there was one where the tight end fell down, but it wasn't as though the Bears defender was behind him and he jumped the route. He would have intercepted that even if the tight end hadn't fallen down. So it does make a difference not having Jamar out there, but I still don't think it made a huge difference. They've been doing, that was the 15th practice in a row without Jamar.
Yeah, and the Bears defense certainly has been giving the Bears offense a lot of hell here the last few weeks at Halas Hall. When you talk about Jamar Chase, it's interesting because I do think there's a lot of similarities between the Bears and the Bengals, at least where the Bengals were when they first got Joe Burrow. And you talk about that decision to draft Jamar Chase. I know that there was like this decision between offensive lineman or wide receiver, and you see how the Bengals almost won a Super Bowl with that decision. But Joe Burrow has also had some injury issues, and he took a lot of sacks that first year. And the Bears kind of ran into that same decision this year with Rome Odunze. They very easily could have drafted an offensive lineman, and instead of taking a wide receiver, and from your standpoint and watching the development of Joe Burrow and all the ebbs and flows and the injuries and the Super Bowls, your standpoint on that decision that Cincinnati made and kind of lining that up with a similar decision that the Bears made in that regard.
Yeah, I think it was the right decision. And Penei Sewell was the tackle they were going to take, and he's been fantastic. But they needed a guy to take the top off the defense. Yes, it helped too that Joe and Jamar played together and had this pre-existing chemistry from LSU. But I think they made the right decision. And you go back to all those sacks that Burrow took early in his career. Yeah, the offensive line was terrible, and it's amazing they got to a Super Bowl with that offensive line. But a lot of that was on Joe too, holding the ball, trying to extend plays, and he doesn't have the athleticism. He was very good in the pocket, great pocket movement. And if he gets out and runs, he can make things happen. And then the ACL happens, and that kind of went away in year 2 a little more. But I think it's a great decision by the Bears because you do have Caleb Williams who can make these things happen, these secondary plays. Cam Taylor-Britt, the Bengals starting cornerback, compared him to Patrick Mahomes yesterday when we talked to him after practice, which is pretty lofty. Not overall Patrick Mahomes, just his ability to extend and have one play turn into a totally secondary play because you can't expect DBs to plaster these receivers that long. They're going to come free at some point. So I think that the Bears made the right call there. I can't remember what it wasn't a great offensive tackle. There was a lot of them. There was a lot of offensive tackles in the first round, but there wasn't that like surefire guy. So if Caleb Williams can kind of do that and avoid pressure on his own and have these receivers that you can count on to win and get the ball out fast, yeah, get that thing going, get everything clicking, and then you can start building the line starting next year.
Jay, obviously this was a preseason joint practice, still a lot of time before the regular season, but does this practice say more about what the Bears were able to do in the rating conditions or more about what the Bengals maybe couldn't do? Like, I see a lot of Bears fans are kind of, whoa, look what they did against a team that's going to be in the playoffs this season. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I think those kind of conditions always favor the defense. It's just, people like to say it favors the offense because the receiver knows where he's going and the DB has to react. And so that the footing might be a little bit more problematic for the defense. But, we saw this last year that the Bengals opened the season in Cleveland and there was not rain in the forecast and it rained the entire game. It was the craziest thing. And they lost 24-3. They looked awful, but it was Burrow coming off the calf injury. He was 60% at best. And so there's a lot of excuse making then. And, Zach Taylor talked about it yesterday, the head coach, about, we needed this kind of work. We need to know what plays we can and can't call in this kind of weather. It's football. You're going to play in the conditions and
Sure.
You got to be ready for it. So I don't know that what yesterday said more about the Bengals or the Bears. I haven't seen enough from the Bears to see what they look like in nice weather. That did not at all look like the Bengals offense, what you saw out there yesterday. I mean, just T. Higgins alone with 4 drops and Mike Gesicki's been sure-handed. He had a drop. And I think both teams probably would have, after the fact, knowing what they know, would have rather taken that thing inside and maybe go 3 or 4 hours to get the work in. It wasn't ideal situation to have a joint practice like that, but it is football. It's played in the elements, and the Bengals can't really be making excuses that they're going to have to play in that at times, especially in the AFC North when you're playing games in Pittsburgh and Baltimore and Cleveland.
Yep. We know all about it here in the Midwest. In Chicago,
NFC North is the same thing. You do have one dome in the division. That's nice.
Two. Maybe one day the Bears might have one too, much to the chagrin of many here in Chicago, including Mark Carman. And so it's always tricky to figure out who won a day at practice because at the end of the day, it is just practice, especially in the elements. Just final question for me is just in terms of, fast forwarding now to the preseason game tomorrow, your expectations. I know Zach Taylor said that the starters won't play earlier in the week, so I'm assuming that will still hold serve. But your expectations going into the game and how the kind of looks they're going to give the Bears to try to test things out, even if their starters aren't playing, trying to, install their offense and defense, regardless of the personnel that's on the field.
Yeah. So talked to Logan Wilson earlier in the week because not only are the starters not going to play, backup quarterback Jake Browning, who played really well last year when Burrow got hurt, he has a rib injury. He's not going to play. So we're talking about third string quarterback Logan Wilson, a 7th round pick from 2018. He's going to probably play most of the game. And I talked to him earlier in the week about his philosophy. He went in the fourth quarter last week when the Bengals offense was doing nothing under Browning, and he completed 7 of his first 8 passes, had a 37-yard touchdown pass to the rookie Jermaine Burton, and just asked about his philosophy going into the fourth quarter of a preseason game. And he's like, let it rip. You just don't be afraid to take every shot you can and do it within the scope of the offense, but you can't be afraid. Just trust what you're seeing and go for it. And he's like, well, what about the first quarter of a preseason game? And he says the same thing. I just looked it up a little bit ago. Since 2018, he has the 3rd most preseason snaps of any quarterback in the league. So this is kind of his territory, and he's been around. He was initially a Bengals draft pick, then he went to the Titans, the Falcons. Now he's back with the Bengals. So he's seen a lot of action in the preseason, and I think they're going to see that because yes, the starters aren't playing, but I think Jermaine Burton, the rookie wide receiver out of Alabama, will. And they had this really good connection last week. And Jermaine Burton only played 5 snaps through the first 3 quarters. Then he came in the fourth quarter with Woodside and had a 37-yarder, a 38-yarder. They really had a connection. So I think you're going to see the Bengals. It's not going to be a conservative offense. They do want to see what they've got in this run game, but without the starters on O-line, the starting running backs, you really can't test that. I think you're going to see them go out there and throw the ball around and try to hit some more of those big plays like they did against the Buccaneers.
Well, Jay, again, appreciate all the great information. I know our listeners are going to love this. You can check out his work on Pro Football Network. And I know you're heading out to Wrigley's, so I hope you have a great time. The weather, again, is a lot better today than it was yesterday, but appreciate you jumping on.
All right. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yes, sir.
Jay with some great stuff there, so definitely check out his work on Pro Football Network. And we have a massive super chat that we have to get to. But before we do, I have to tell everybody about Z-Biotics. Let me tell you, if there's a surefire way to wake up feeling fresh after a night of drinking, it's with Z-Biotics pre-alcohol. And guys, pre-alcohol is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink alcohol, it gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. And pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. So just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel great tomorrow. And I first gave pre-alcohol a try when I was at a bachelor party in New Orleans not too long ago. I drank, I drank before a night out. And you wouldn't believe how great I felt the next morning because of my Z-Biotics pre-alcohol. And look, everyone's going to have vacations, weddings, birthdays, and reunions coming up. There's so much going on. Get the most out of your summer plans by stocking up on pre-alcohol now. Go to zbiotics.com/CHGO Bears to get 15% off your first order when you use CHGO Bears at checkout. Pre-alcohol is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/CHGO Bears and use the code CHGO Bears, excuse me, at checkout for 15% off. Thank you, Z-Biotics, for sponsoring this episode and our great times ahead.
That's right. And after you take some Z-Biotics, you'll be ready for some Miller Lite here in Chicago, heading over to our tailgates. A lot's changed over the years. One thing that hasn't, the great taste of Miller Lite. Another thing that hasn't changed is that it's less filling. So what is the best thing about the original light beer? Well, Miller Lite sparked this debate in 1975 when Mark was at the ripe age of 55, and we still haven't settled it yet. It's just great taste, less filling. We all know the old saying there. Miller Lite keeps it simple, undebatable quality, great taste, only 96 calories. It's the beer that strips away everything you don't need and holds on to what matters most. A light beer that tastes like beer, less filling, and only 96 calories. The original light beer since 1975. You don't have to choose what's best. Miller Lite has great taste and is less filling. Tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/CHGO football, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. We're Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories per 12 ounces. Fewer calories and carbs than premium regular beer. Make sure you hit up our guys over at Miller Lite.
What a combo. Z-Biotics, Miller Lite, back-to-back. Love it. Steven, let's bring up that super chat I mentioned right before the ad break because I think this just needs to get plenty of love. We have Crystal. Oh, and look, we have our guy, Herb Howard from It's the Bigs. Like, this is a party now, you guys. Let's freaking go.
Oh, me after the super chat from Crystal, man.
Yeah, for people who are listening to the podcast, Crystal gave us a $99 super chat. Hey, guys, sending love because it's Friday and I'm off work, heading to Alabama for the weekend, so I'll be missing the game. Keep up the great work. Love you guys and bear down. Great job, Braggs and Nick. Also, if you haven't secured your spot for Arizona, what are you waiting for? Look at that. Crystal's just doing our job for us. I love that.
We love Crystal. Best. I mean, look at that. Showing support, promoting our Arizona trip. We'll get to details on that later with truefantravel.com. And when she finds out that Herb's on the show too, her secret, she might be your secret admirer, Herb. We've been doing the investigative work to find out exactly who Crystal's crush is, but
I don't think I'm worthy.
Maybe another super chat's gonna fly in from Crystal, but save your money, Crystal. We appreciate all your support and we love you very much for everything you do here with us at CHGO Bears. So yeah, before we get into it, I talked to Herb Light last night and was like, hey, you mind hopping on today real quick, short notice? Here he is, from the Bigs, and it's the Bigs, of course. Those guys do a great job. Been following them for a long time, and it's cool to see you guys kind of climbing the way you have. But I do also want to announce, I was talking with Jake earlier about it. Jake Flanagan, our leader here at CHGO Sports. And I will be announcing to everyone here on Herb's behalf, but he's rejoining us here on CHGO Bears. He'll be on every Monday, just like last year. Hogue finally, I guess this rivalry, he laid down the sword, and you'll be able to talk to Hogue once again on the air here at CHGO Bears. That's obviously tongue in cheek, but we're excited to have you back here. You're going to be on Mondays with Hogue and Carm for a lot of the Mondays, and then maybe even popping in here on some of these Friday preview shows whenever your schedule works best for you. We don't want to overcook the ham, but we always appreciate your expertise, Herb.
No, it's always love, man. Hanging out with y'all, being a small part of the CHGO family, getting used to y'all's fans and y'all following, man. It's always a good time. Last year we had such a good time on Mondays, just hanging out, doing the recap of the games, and after we had all had a chance to kind of watch the film and dissect it and kind of sit with it for a day or so and talk about it. So I'm looking forward to doing the same thing again this year, man. Anytime I can hop on, anytime other than that, it's just super dope, man. So, it's always love with me and CHGO. So happy to be running it back this year.
Yeah, Greg, when you told me yesterday, I was like, hell yeah, let's go. Herb is back, man. I mean, again, I've told you how much I respect you and all the things that you do. So to kind of tap into your brain a little bit, Herb, yesterday we were at that joint practice, rainy. It was raining sideways. I think, did you have your backpack out there too?
Yeah, man. So I got there like right around the time practice starts. And when I do that, I don't usually walk all the way to Halas, to the actual building, especially if the practice is at 3 and 4. I'll just go to 3 and 4 and take my book bag with me. Because I don't want to walk to Halas just to drop my book bag off and then come back. So I just took it with me. It wasn't raining yet. It wasn't raining, and then it started and it was raining sideways. So hopefully I didn't do too much damage to my book bag. I love my book bag, and I had it out there exposed to the elements, but I wasn't dressed for it, man. I had on a regular cotton t-shirt. I was soaking wet. I could have wrung that thing out by the end of practice, but a little rain ain't gonna hurt nothing, man. It was good to be out there and see the joint practice.
Well, Herb, you're burying the lead here a little bit too, and condolences to your backpack, your book bag. But the thing that I think more people are concerned about, because you mentioned on Twitter the other day that there's no better beat in football that has a better shoe game than the Bears beat guys.
Facts.
So I saw that Dion Miller was prepared with her galoshes. She came with the rain boots.
Yeah.
Now, how about you guys? Because Nick, I know you're a shoe guy. Herb, you're a shoe guy. There's a lot of guys in that room that are shoe guys. So who were the smart ones that came prepared, brought their rain boots, and then who was rocking the J's out in the rain?
I hope nobody was rocking J's, but I mean, I was rocking Nike. I had an umbrella. I had my little rain jacket. So it wasn't the smartest move on my part, to be completely honest. I did not dress for the elements in terms of shoe wear.
Yeah, no, I know some fans of some other teams that kind of check us out here on CHGO, man. But y'all tell y'all favorite beat that they don't want this smoke on the shoe game, man. Nick leads us in the shoe heat that we got in our room, but it's a lot of people that bring a lot of heat in that room, man. Shout out to Kaylin, Cassie, like a lot of people bring heat. Dion bring heat. It'd be a lot of fire on the shoe game on the Bears beat. So I don't know that we did the best job yesterday in terms of not pulling out our stuff in that rain, but Dion was prepared for it. Man, it wasn't too bad. It wasn't really muddy. They got wet, but the water itself isn't the problem. As long as it ain't muddy, it was cool.
No doubt. So Herb, in that practice yesterday, what were just some of your takeaways after watching Joe Burrow and what he was not doing against this Bears defense, what Caleb Williams was able to do against that Bengals defense? What are just some of your takeaways?
Yeah, I start on the defense because I think at least early, that's kind of where it's going to start for the Bears. And the first player that jumps out is just Jalen Johnson, man. That dude just continues to get better and better. We saw him have his best year of his career last year, and he looks even better than that throughout summer this year. He was just shutting dudes down. He was going up against T. Higgins. Obviously, Jamar Chase wasn't there. That would have been cool to see, but he wasn't there. But first of all, Jalen Johnson is rarely targeted. People understand. I don't know how they didn't put him in the top 100 because they all seem to know that you don't throw at that dude. I think he got targeted maybe 4 or 5 times yesterday. I think the Bears clipped them all up and put them on Twitter. Those are all the targets he had yesterday, and he got like 3 PBUs on those. So, and no catches. I think like that's just kind of who he is and who he's going to be this year. So, I asked Luce about that in the press conference after practice, is just the flexibility that offers him as a play caller to say, all right, I know Jalen got that locked down. I can roll some coverages. I can bring some different exotic pressures because I don't got to worry about Jalen. Kevin Byard said the same thing when I asked him about it. So Jalen Johnson just looks to be in midseason form and playing lights out right now. The other thing that stood out to me was the depth that they have at secondary. I know we talked about that a lot throughout the spring and summer, but it kind of stood out again yesterday. You saw Josh Blackwell making plays. You saw Greg Stroman making plays. And this is against Joe Burrow and their number one offense, right? The secondary is still kind of getting healthy. It's good to see some of those guys coming back. Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson a little bit, still waiting on Jaquan. But while they're working those guys in, some of these other guys are still getting first-team reps, and the fall-off does not seem to be as drastic as you would think it may be going from the ones to the twos. Those guys are stepping up. Jalen Jones playing outside on the corner, Josh Blackwell, Greg Stroman, all those guys, Elijah Hicks playing on the back end while Jaquan is out. All those guys are really holding it down and playing at a really, really high level. And so when you do have, maybe it's just a play, maybe it's just a series, a guy, turns an ankle, tweaks something or whatever it may be, and it's got to come out. You don't have to worry that, you're going to target that guy that comes in and he's not going to be able to handle it, because from my vantage point, they all seem to be handling it very, very well. Greg Stroman had a pick yesterday against Joe Burrow. So that, they just look really, really good. Flipping it over to the offensive side of the ball, what I saw yesterday against the Bengals practice, a little bit up and down, but they certainly were able to win as much as they lost in terms of making some of those big plays. Really, really good timing, great accuracy on the throw from Caleb to Rome on a slant route. Was able to hit him right in his hands in stride. Rome was able to catch the ball cleanly, put it away. He split the linebacker and then got back to the outside. Would have been a foot race to the end zone. I think he would have won it. I think in a real game that would have been a real touchdown. He scored in practice, but I think it would have been a legitimate touchdown in the real game. The way he caught it in stride, split the linebacker, then got back on his outside track, foot race to the safety. I think Rome wins that to the pylon, and so that was really cool to see. And then a great back shoulder fade ball down the red zone to Keenan Allen on the left sideline from Caleb for a touchdown there. So they seem to be just coming together a little bit. It seems like when the lights come on, when it matters, when there's some other competition, they just seem to be playing better. And I think part of it is just the fact that the Bears defense is so good, right? They're just really, really good. And I don't know how frequently this offense is going to face a defense that good throughout the season. And so they just seem to look better against other defenses. But also, the Bears defense kind of knows what they're trying to do. They know their route combinations. They know their formations, their alignments, those types of things. And so we already talked about how good those guys are. So you add in the fact that they know what they're doing. It's kind of a little unfair to the offense. So when they go against guys who don't know them as well and don't match up as well either, they seem to be making their fair share of plays.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? Like us trying to gauge being at camp every day and trying to gauge, good versus bad. When the offense makes a good play, is it because the defense, doesn't have their starters out there? Or when the defense is dominating, is it because the offense isn't ready? Or then you saw it. That's the benefit of a joint practice. And I do wonder at times, like, with these joint practices, with the fights that break out, and then teams using these joint practices as reason to not play their starters in preseason games where there's money and Vegas and ticket sales involved, that sometimes I question, like, will we always have joint practices? But they are extremely beneficial for teams to get that extra look. And to your point, man, it's like trying to figure out just how good this defense is. Well, I think they showed it yesterday, given Joe Burrow fits. He threw 3 interceptions yesterday. I think he was like, when Jay Morrison, who was on early with us, I think he charted him like 13 of 35 or something on the day. And so, he had 3 interceptions, and Joe Burrow in his, when he played the Bears a couple years ago, he had 3 interceptions on 3 straight throws at Soldier Field. So, and I believe Jalen Johnson was one of the guys to get one of those balls. So
Jalen pick 6, wasn't it?
Yeah. And Jalen continues to give him problems here all these years later. So I definitely have a bunch of different notes that I wanted to go through. I know we're going to take another quick break here, but there's a bunch of stuff that I kind of want to touch on, and some thoughts that I had from yesterday, and get your guys' thoughts on what to expect for tomorrow.
Yeah, but before we do, I got to tell everybody about Ray Chevrolet. You can shop Ray Chevrolet and secure the right new Chevy and price for you. That's because their new car clearance event is going on all month long, and you can shop their huge selection for new Chevy models now at new low prices. Visit our partner this August at their location on Route 12 in Fox Lake, or at raychevrolet.com. As one of the top-selling Chevy dealers in the Midwest, you'll always be able to shop one of Chicagoland's largest Chevy inventories. And right now, you can get 0% financing, make zero payment until 2025, put $0 down, and find zero hidden fees on all new Chevrolet models. Or you can cruise in August your own way and shop over 125 of their vehicles priced under $20,000. And if you heard of Ray Chevrolet, then you've also heard of Ray's Price Promise. They're guaranteed to make your next vehicle more affordable than ever with no price changing, no add-ons, and no hidden fees ever. That means the incredible price we're talking about right now. You can expect to see the very same price when you shop Ray Chevy in store or online. Shop the new car clearance event all month long by visiting Ray Chevrolet in Fox Lake or raychevrolet.com. They've been serving the community since 1963. Together, let's drive.
That's right. And I want to give a shout out to our guys over at Family Farms. You know, Herb was with us here for the last preseason game doing pre and post, and he was hanging out on the Family Farms patio at the CHGO Sports Studios, the new look CHGO Sports Studios. We appreciate Family Farms. Their culinary journey is woven with passion, dedication, and commitment to crafting the finest bacon wrapped chicken, a timeless delicacy that has tantalized taste buds since 1974. Join them on this flavorful adventure where every bite tells a story of tradition, quality, and the enduring spirit of Family Farms. The tradition continues. Now you can find Family Farms bacon wrapped chicken even easier. Look for us in the meat department at your local Woodman's, Moreano's, or Burcott's. Craving a taste of home without leaving yours? Check out baconwrapchicken.com or click on the link for our Amazon store, which also includes the legendary Rocky Rococo's Italian sausage. And to find out when our new amazing Cajun Nation flavors will become available with an authentic Louisiana bite, those guys were hanging out in our studio a couple weeks ago. Really, really good stuff. So excited for you guys to experience that as well. So you can experience the flavor that's become a family favorite for generations. Visit your nearest Woodman's, Mariano's, or Burcott's, or on Amazon, baconwrapchicken.com. Family Farms. Gotta have them.
Gotta have them. Now I'm hungry. Jeez. So hungry. Guys, let's talk about this upcoming game now. I mean, we saw the joint practice. We're gonna get to see Caleb Williams and the starters. I think Cole Kmet slipped up a little bit. He said play a quarter. He's like, don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that.
We already quoted you, Cole.
It's already out there. Everybody's already quoted
I saw
you,
people giving you heat for that, Nick. They were like, oh, he said don't quote him on it. Like, you know.
I mean, you said it, man. I'm sorry. Cole's our guy. And, you know, maybe that will be the case. It all will depend on how these drives actually go for Caleb Williams in that first team offense.
You can hit us with a quick don't quote me in a sad conversation. You in a live press conference. It's over with. It's already out to the whole entire world. Like, what you mean? Like,
you can't say it in front of a mic. I mean, honestly, and this is what I wanted to say about this, and we get into some of the snap count, expectations in this game. But overall, I'm pleasantly surprised that they're going to play their starters here on Saturday. I was anticipating that it may be just like last year's Indianapolis Colts joint practice week, where they have the joint practice, use it as the reason to not play on Saturday. And I honestly think just because of the amount of reps they did end up getting in on yesterday in the rain, that I think that they had come to this conclusion, if you listen to Matt Eberflus in the press conference, that they were going to always play their starters here on Saturday. And to me, that shows a turn of to me, having a clear direction on how you want to get your reps in, and them really having an attention to detail on what they feel is going to be the correct development for Caleb Williams. And I was nervous going into the preseason and into training camp when he's talking about what other teams are doing and how many snaps these guys got. That's great. Like, look around, but I want you to have a plan. I don't want you searching. And so at this point, I've been a big advocate of more reps equals more better. And I didn't like how they dialed things back last year. They did not come ready to play week 1. They were 0-4 to start the year. They were trying to run an offense that didn't fit the quarterback's needs at the end of the day. This is a totally different situation now with Caleb, because he's got to develop as a rookie as opposed to what Justin was going through learning Luke Getsy's offense for the second year. So overall, I just want to give Matt Eberflus his flowers because I think so far so good in terms of the amount of reps they got last week in the preseason game, quality reps. Now you do a joint practice, you're getting them more reps here coming up on Saturday, and then we'll see what they do for the Kansas City game, which again, I still feel like you need to prep for your 2 Thursday night games during the year and play your starters in that game. But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So far, so good. I think Eberflus has done a really nice job in terms of reps so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, Eberflus threw out 45 as a number, right? As a floor number for reps this preseason. How you going to get to 45 if he doesn't play this game, right? He had 18 last week. 18 last week. You're not going to get to 45 without playing him this week unless you kind of overplay him a little bit against the Chiefs. And I don't really think they want to do that, although there's a long time between that Chiefs game and week 1, right? Usually they're just talking about like a week or so. They're talking about, 2 weeks to try to get ready for that Tennessee Titans game. So there's still a lot of time in between where the guys can get the rest that they need, heal up whatever needs to be healed up and be ready to go week 1. So I think it makes a whole lot of sense for them to go out there and get their reps, not only this week, but get reps next week against the Chiefs too.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. In terms of this game, you guys, and I want to ask you, like, what are just some of the things you want to look for? One of the things that I do want to see from this first team offense that, a lot of guys talked about in the locker room after the Buffalo game is just finishing with a touchdown as opposed to field goals. Yes, they had good drives, got into that red zone area, but they were kind of stalled a little bit. Yep. So what I'm looking for in this upcoming game against the Bengals is just seeing how this offense can finish those drives. And if you're backed up a little bit, how does, Shane Waldron utilize some of the personnel groupings to get down the field and ultimately put that ball in the end zone? And then personally, like we saw Caleb on the move, make some nice strikes on that right sideline. I do want to see him just throw a strike over the middle of the field in the pocket where he has protection, where, he feels comfortable, and he looked comfortable last week, but feels comfortable in the pocket, can throw a strike over the middle of the field. And then you're just kind of seeing it all come together from Caleb Williams. We've seen it in practice, but it's just one of the things that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing and watching as it all plays out on Saturday.
No, in terms of that red zone thing, I agree with you in terms of finishing the drives, right? Getting down in the red zone. But I will say this about Shane Waldron. I don't know how you can present a vanilla red zone package. Red zone is what it is. Your red zone package just is what it is. And so once DeAndre Swift kind of let the turf monsters trip him up down there, Waldron either had to get into his red zone package or tone it all the way down. And we were all yelling at him like, what's up with these runs? Like, let's go. But your red zone package is what it is. If you flip your playbook over to the red zone, then those are your red zone plays. There's no real vanilla way to go about it. And I don't know that he wanted to really hop into his red zone bag this early and show what that may or may not look like, even in terms of personnel groupings, formations, whatever it is. I don't think he really wanted to do that. And I think that contributed to their inability to finish off those drives. So I don't know if he'll be a little bit more willing to dip into his red zone package this week. But hopefully if they get a chance to finish some big plays from outside of the red zone, they're able to complete those things. DeAndre Swift said it himself. He should have scored on that. Like cut back in there, keep your feet, you'll score. So I give them a little bit of a pass for the fact they weren't able to finish those drives, because I don't think that offensively they wanted to kind of show their hand in terms of what they would like to do in the red zone.
Yeah, it's completely fair, Herb. I mean, there's no question. I've heard that reasoning, and you're right. If DeAndre Swift and the running backs followed their blockers, I mean, Tevin Jenkins made the block, and instead of popping outside, you could have gone up the middle and potentially gotten that first down. And Nick, something that stood out to me, what you said there was like, I hope they get to see us, run some slants this week, because we have started to see an uptick in those throws and in the post routes. Like, you did see the comeback to DJ Moore, but you've seen so many post routes. Now the slants are starting to become a thing, but he has dialed in on these post routes, whether the skinny post or it's 15 yards downfield and it's more of a longer post route. Caleb is so good at firing those into Keenan Allen, Gerald Everett getting in on a lot of those balls. Cole Kmet, you saw on that 2-minute drill the other day. And so I think that throw still needs to be put on display for fans. And then I think the other one, because we saw so much in those 18 reps, from, the jump man signature throw and the little flick on the screen and all the different things that we've seen at camp, his pocket presence, his poise, his scramble ability. There was just so much that Bears fans got to really enjoy here last week. So that throw, and then also I think the touch throw with anticipation into some kind of tight window touch throw. He's very good at those, but that's still something that they're working on in practice, and to try to see if they can convert one of those in a game. You saw Rome and Caleb talking about that touch throw in the back of the end zone on their final snap of the preseason game. You saw that conversation being had at Hard Knocks. Those are the hardest throws you're going to have to make, and those will probably take the longest time for them to click on all cylinders. Those things ultimately might take years for them to really come together on, but I want to see him attempt some anticipation touch throws, crossers deep downfield, whatever, however you want to phrase it, and see some of that chemistry come together.
Yeah, being able to adjust real quickly, like being able to adjust when Caleb extends plays is going to be huge, because he's going to do that for a majority of his career. That's just what he has. That's one of the tools that he has in his bag. So if Rome and Caleb get an opportunity to do that in this game against the Bengals and they hit on it, that's going to show just the growth that you can make from a week-to-week adjustment, and then what it can show moving forward for that duo as they kind of progress in their NFL careers. So I thought that was a really great point there, Greg. But go ahead, Herb. You were about to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I think they would have hit that anticipatory throw on the out route when they had got the illegal contact or holding, whatever it was, against Rome. We've seen them hit that out route a few times in practice, and it's real smooth. The timing is perfect, and it gets it to him plenty of time for him to catch the ball and get his feet in on the sideline. I think that's going to be a route that works well for them on 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, because of the attention that so many other guys get. You'll often get Rome one-on-one. He's got the route running ability to kind of shake open, and Caleb gets it out there on time. In terms of them kind of hooking up on some of those kind of impromptu style plays, I think that right now Rome is just a little bit overcommitted to the rules as a rookie, right? We saw that not only on the last play that they had against the Bills, but we had seen it a couple weeks back when Jaquan Brisker and Tyreek Stevenson blew a coverage on Rome, and he's running wide open down the right sideline, but he bends his route back into Jaquan. Like, I think he had a post, and he's like, I got to run my post because I'm a rookie, and I'm supposed to run a post. I'm going to run a post. And Caleb is like, yo, run to all that damn grass up there, all that open grass, go there. And that's where Caleb threw the ball to in practice. They weren't able to hook up because Roman kind of bent his route there. And I think that he's following his rules for whatever his rule is on that scramble drill. And he kind of just set and then came straight down that line. I don't know if he's expecting, I think it was Simba Webster to kind of come right back to the ball, and then he comes and the other guy takes that third level. But, bro, all that grass is in front of you. That's where Caleb is going to throw the ball. That's where he should throw the ball. He's going to throw it to the grass. I think soon Rome will be like, okay, to heck with the rules. In these scramble situations, if there's open grass like that, run to the grass, because that's where Caleb's going to put it.
And you know what? That's just going to take time, because I was talking to Josh Blackwell and how he defends Keenan Allen, and he said why he's so difficult is that he runs routes in ways that you're not supposed to run routes. But because he's so nuanced in his route running and understands how he can beat DBs, he can do that. And once Rome starts developing and learns that, like, you don't have to do everything to a T and you could still win, like you were just saying, Herb, he's going to capitalize on those broken plays where you don't have to follow exactly what the route concept's showing you. Is find that green grass. Just get there. Get there.
I like that piece you did with Josh. He was like, man, he ran a dig route on me, but with an outside release. He's like, dude, don't take an outside release to then get back to a dig. He's like, I'm not expecting him to get there. Once he takes the outside release, I'm expecting the outbreaking route or something else. For him to take the outside release and then, like, that's just unorthodox. You're not expecting that. And that's one of the ways Keenan just so savvy in his route running and gets open.
Yeah, that's why he's going to be a future Hall of Famer there, Keenan Allen. And, I want to see him get a catch in the preseason, even though he was making them all day yesterday in the Thursday joint.
We don't want to play in the preseason.
I know.
He's ready for week 1.
I know. He is. Honestly, like, this whole thing that you put on all this weight and you can't move anymore, that is not true, because that dude gets open and does it consistently. But we got more to talk about in this game, you guys.
I had a Packers guy asking me about that. I was like, no, he'll be fine.
Yeah, you just watch. You just watch when it comes to those regular season games.
Keenan Allen will be fine.
He'll be fine. We have more to talk about it, but before we do, I got to tell everybody about Circa. They have tight money line splits, and a low hold model. Games will strive to be a -110 split on the Circa Sports menu, unlike other sports books, which may use -115 or even -120 splits. Circa Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to some of those other books. And they also have high app limits. That's transparency. And Circa Sports does not limit players based on their winnings. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. And look, Circa encourages bettors to download and explore all those sports betting apps for themselves and compare the lines from each sports book. They feel really confident in what they're doing there at Circa. And they also have great customer service. There are real people behind the Circa Sports brand who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. Not cool. All aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circa Sportsbook and Circa Resort at Casino in Las Vegas. So download the Circa Sports Illinois app at circasports.com/Illinois-app to sign up today. Also, be on the lookout for Circa events, watch parties, and tailgates. They're with us for all of our Cubs Friday 120 clubs. The guys are hanging out, having a good time right now. So if you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 1-800-426-2537, or text GAMB to 833-234, or visit areyoureallywinning.com.
That's right. And I just want to give everybody a quick reminder that now is as good a time as ever to become a CHGO diehard, especially with us over here at Bears coverage. You know, Nick and Carm and Hogue are always doing written content that is exclusive to you when you become a diehard. And when you become a diehard, you can get a free shirt right out the gate. We got some really cool designs. The franchise collection that we just dropped, and hey, you never know when the season starts, might be dropping a few more designs. There's the football season collection right now available now at chgolocker.com for anybody. But again, if you become a diehard, you can get one of those shirts for free, and then discounts on all future shirts going forward, and discounts on events as well. And if you were not able to book into the London trip, you can join us in Phoenix, Arizona to see the Bears go head-to-head with the Arizona Cardinals on November 3rd. Trip package includes a 3-night stay at a 4-star hotel in Phoenix, a Q&A with Bears alumni to be announced, but we do know that Corey Wooten will be joining us, an all-inclusive tailgate party, round-trip transportation to the game, an upper-level game ticket to the Bears versus Cardinals. Cannot wait to be in the stands for a game once again. So reserve your spot for the party at truefantravel.com now. Limited spots available, so get them while you can.
All right. What do we look? We have so much still in our Greg. You did an
Yeah,
amazing job. You did an amazing job filling out notes.
And as I
today.
told
where do you want to go?
I'm always going to jot down a bunch of notes, but we don't have to go through them all. Just kind of things to keep my mind fresh on some of the, you know how I go. I just go on to these crazy tangents. So you just never know. And I know we got to get to super chats, and I certainly want to try to keep this to a tight hour because I know Herb's got some things he's got to get to as well here today. And we appreciate your time as always, Herb. So I honestly want to get your take on this whole defensive end market and the Bears being in on Matthew Judon. I found this whole thing yesterday morning and the day before to be very fascinating that the Bears were so close to trading for Matthew Judon, and Scott Pioli was on, doing an interview where he said he was at Halas Hall and was watching all this go down. Scott Pioli being the former GM of the Kansas City Chiefs, and who was the guy who gave Ryan Poles his first job, in a front office in Kansas City. And so he would know. And he was like, I honestly thought it was, close to getting done here in Chicago. It doesn't, but it really kind of showed, Ryan Poles' hand a little bit on how aggressive he's being to add to this defensive line. I know Dominique Robbins spoke to you guys in the media, and it definitely feels like it's money on the table time for him, but I don't think Ryan Poles is waiting around for anybody. I think he's, circling the waters, and if the opportunity presents itself, he's going to take it. So I guess I'm going to lay this question out to you and Nick, and I'll start with you, Herb. Like, how do you think he's going to approach this over the next 2 weeks? Is there going to be some big kind of home run splash? Hassan Reddick's out there. There's some different names to consider. Even Trey Hendrickson, who booped Caleb Williams on the head, yesterday. That pissed me off. But there's some different options out there of bigger names, or do they just play it safe and add depth? Maybe bring in Yannick Ngakoue on a small 1-year, $3 to $5 million deal and then wait for the trade deadline like they have the last couple of years. I'm really interested to see kind of how this all plays out, and I wanted to see what you guys thought.
That's the beautiful thing about how Ryan Poles has positioned himself in terms of cap space, in terms of draft capital. He has the flexibility to pounce if an opportunity presents itself that makes sense. I don't think he'll do it just for the sake of doing it, but if something presents itself and it makes sense and it doesn't seem too rich for what he wants to do, then he's got the room to be able to go ahead and take advantage of it. It doesn't surprise me that they were in on June. I did see Scott Pioli up there. He had on a dope HBCU polo too. I told him it was raw, but I think Ryan Poles just, like I said, he's put himself in a position to be able to take advantage of those things. Now, I don't know if there's something else out there that makes a ton of sense to him. I don't really see them being in on Hassan Reddick only because of the trade capital that you have to give up. But then you got to sign them, and they've been signing some people, right? You gave Montez his money, you gave Jalen his money, you gave DJ his money, you got some other guys coming down the pike here soon. I don't know that they're going to continue to invest that heavily in the position, considering the draft capital that they have coming up, right? So they should be able to address some of those needs in the draft if they need to, also in free agency if they need to. That being said, though, I think that he's starting to realize, Ryan Poles, that they may be closer than we kind of thought, right? We kind of thought, okay, they should be pretty good this year, but maybe next year is when the legitimate Super Bowl window opens. And I think Ryan Poles like, hold on now, right? If we can take advantage of the first half of our schedule, get ourselves decent position in terms of seeding and getting that playoffs, and we can get in that thing healthy and rolling, and Caleb continues to progress as we expect him to, who says we can't go on a run this year? And let me try to give these guys as much ammunition as they need, because if they get there, I don't want it to be a personnel issue where we didn't just do quite enough to get them over the hump. And so I think he's starting to think, well, maybe we start to go a little bit more all in with our chips this year as opposed to waiting to next year's draft and free agency.
I love it. Win now. I keep trying to preach this to the Bears fans that want an emotional hedge and say, oh, we're not ready. Wait till next year. We'll be really good next year. And we'll be able to fill all these holes that we have, and we'll have this perfect team. It doesn't work like that. And I just feel like the window is now, whether we like it or not, whether Caleb's a rookie or not. And it's something we should embrace. And if they fall short of certain expectations, so be it. But I agree with you. I think that Ryan Poles is looking at this and attacking. And so the one thing that I wanted to ask you, Nick, that Herb mentioned, like, he doesn't think Hassan Reddick, because of you got to pay him. But in terms of what Scott Pioli said and the reports that they were as close to, it basically came down to the Bears reportedly did offer a 3rd round pick, just like the Falcons did. Do you think that Ryan Poles had conversations with Matthew Judon's agent about a potential contract, or do you think that they just tried to trade for him to kind of have the same parameters Atlanta's doing, bringing him over without a contract?
No, I mean, I feel like they would have to have had those conversations, right? Because we're seeing how the whole Hassan Reddick situation is kind of playing out, where if they didn't discuss a potential contract extension, like he's not showing up. So I feel like Poles would have at least had some introductory conversations about what a potential extension for Judon would have looked like. Because I think we've seen what can be the ramifications if you don't have those kind of conversations. And just knowing how, Poles handled the sweat deal, like there was obviously going to be a contract extension getting in place. So I definitely think there would have been conversations being had about that, just to make sure that you're not just trading a 3rd round pick. The guy comes here for a year and then he's gone after that. So I think that's I think they would have had those conversations.
Yeah, it's interesting. The way it's described, and Gary in the chat saying, yeah, they, as it was reported, Poles talked to the agent and it was too much for him. But I still am curious to know where the number went for Poles. What did he say? I'm fascinated by this because I think it really tells the story of how they're going to approach, the rest of these different options that are out there. I brought up Trey Hendrickson. I was looking on Twitter yesterday, and there's a guy that I kind of enjoy that does a really good job with some of the coverage on Bears Twitter, Nick Whalen, talking about, some possible DNs who could be available before this trade deadline. And he brought up some names like Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa, Hassan Reddick, DeMarcus Lawrence, Josh Sweat, Trey Hendrickson. So, I found that to be interesting. And, I'm looking like you, Herb, like you suggested, Poles potentially is looking like, hey, man, let's go for it and see what happens. You saw the momentum that the Packers gained to end last year, and they damn near got to the Super Bowl themselves. And, at the end of the day, Jordan Love was a first-year quarterback. I know he's been in the league longer, but he was a first-year quarterback, in terms of starting.
First-year starter, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So, hey, why not, man? And
listen, if
and
you get hot,
you're playing with house money. It's the first year, So, yeah, I wouldn't rule anything out, man.
I wouldn't rule it out either.
I'll hop on while Herb unfreezes with you, Braggs. And
I know.
Nick is also on his way back in. One by one, they're all leaving.
Dropping like flies.
Yeah, here's Nick right on cue.
Dropping like flies. Herb just dropped.
Wow.
Nobody wants to talk to me. Herb's internet kind of
so weird. Like literally we were talking about this before we went live. Like at some point I'm gonna drop out, and there it went. Then I saw the comments like I'm being a little robotic.
Yeah, when Herb comes back, we'll let him. We'll say goodbye to everybody. Edward Elric in the chat saying Braggsy is no longer the voice of caution. He swarmed back to Meatball Island and declared, "I am Braggsy, king of the meatballs. Let's fucking go." Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm all in now. The last couple years I was the tank commander. A couple years ago, I was defiant that they should lose every game they were playing to end the year, and was like getting pissed at anyone that was rooting for them to win games. And I ultimately was right, because we ended up with the number one pick. The learning to win whole moniker of that discussion a couple years ago was wrong. But that's okay. We can let those things go. And then last year, getting to the end and honestly just losing that last game to the Packers and dropping back into the spot where they can take Rome Odunze. Those little things have helped the Bears along the way. But let's say goodbye. And if Herb jumps back in, we'll let him say his goodbyes as well. But we'll get into our super chats here for the day and start to wrap this baby up. We're going to be here every Friday during the season, doing our Friday preview shows. Go ahead, Nicholas Moreano.
I think our awesome producer put a good point in. We should get to some Bayless Nate Davis quickly here.
I have to talk about this.
Yeah. Feel strongly about it. What is it?
Because for me, there's a lot that we need to learn about Bayless Jones Jr., not just at running back, but at kick returner as well. And I think one of the biggest things I want to see is it Ian Wheeler or is it Bayless Jones Jr. on kick returns tomorrow? Because for me, I want to see a 50-50 split. I watch HBO's Hard Knocks, and I see the burst that we saw from Ian Wheeler. And then I also saw it at one of the training camp practices, and I'm like, between the pedigree of this guy having done this already in college at Howard, and now what I see on the field with the speed, I think this guy needs to get some reps out there just to see what we have.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, I think one of the questions I have to all this, I definitely think Ian Wheeler's pushing. I enjoyed watching that competition going down here on Hard Knocks. And while Bayless Jones clearly is starting to make some strides, he's caught you and Hoag's attention in the backfield as running back. He's caught mine as well. I do have some questions in terms of how he can be as a pass blocker, because I think we all know just from some of these other running backs that you got to be able to pass block to stay back there. You can't just be a specialty guy, or else the defense is going to know to an extent what you're trying to do out there. So you got to have a little versatility in the pass blocking game. But I also think, and this is the question I'll ask you, Nick, is like, Bayless Jones dropped a kick return, last week. He muffed another one. And I think they see the light in his, athleticism and his burst and his power. But if he drops another kickoff, as we bring Herb Howard back into the fold here, as we're starting to wrap things up on this show, but if Bayless drops another kick, I mean, is he in danger beyond all the things that, strides he's made? If he can't hold on to the football, I don't know how this team can trust him.
Yeah, no, that's always been the biggest thing with Bayless, right? You got to be reliable, right? And we know when he gets the ball in his hands, he could do some things. And I think too, on that one, he's like, yes, they're all still getting acclimated to this new kickoff. So he had to cover some distance to try to go get it. But anytime you're putting your hands up to catch a kickoff, like, it's just not the right method how to go about it. So you definitely don't want to see it. It's not going to put him, dropping the football is not going to put him in a better position to solidify himself as the number one kick returner and, being a possible weapon, whether it's at receiver or running back. So we still need to see more from him. I do like the possibility of what he can be as a running back. Him just lowering his shoulder on one of the reps in yesterday's practice, like, okay, all right, Bayless, you're like, he could be physical. So learning how to pass block, which is going to come with time. And that's something that a lot of college running backs struggle with to get acclimated to in the NFL. So it's going to take time for Bayless and some trust from Shane Waldron to even put him out there. But he did get at least, I know I saw him at least for one rep with the ones in yesterday's joint practice. So he's making progress in terms of the trustability that you have with him. So it's going to be a learning process for Velus Jones, but he needs to have a clean rest of this preseason to just make sure he's trending in that right direction.
So yeah, no, you're good.
I don't think my computer wanted to be here without Nick, so it was just like, I'm out.
Well, you guys were dropping like flies because Nick dropped, internet dropped him, then you dropped. Now I'm standing here, hanging out by myself. I mean, I get nobody wants to talk to me, so I have to yell at everyone on Twitter, but here I am. So we're getting the super chats here in a second, but since Herb, you're going to be at the game tomorrow, Nick's going to join us on the pregame show. Me and Hogue will be in studio. Nick will join us live from Soldier Field, but I want to get some rapid fire thoughts from you, Herb, before we get to super chats on some of the different snaps or, reps that some of these guys will get. So who's going to get more kickoff returns in this game, Ian Wheeler or Velus Jones?
Velus Jones.
Okay. And then how many carries for Velus Jones in this game?
8. I'll go under 8.5.
Okay. Who gets more carries, Roshan or Khalil Herbert?
Khalil. I think Roshan's will get split between Wheeler and Velus. I think Khalil's will be mostly just his whenever DeAndre is done, and they'll probably split some of those too.
Okay. And then Caleb Williams had 18 snaps, 20 if you count the penalties last week. How many snaps, how many reps here for Caleb Williams at his Soldier Field debut?
Always tough because it kind of depends on how the drives go themselves, but I would go 20.5, and I might take the over by a little bit.
Okay. And then my final one, how many reps or snaps for our guy, Nate Davis? Save the best for last.
I'm trying to just get on board with his demeanor, just how he is. Interesting press conference that he had yesterday, but I'll say the same. I'll say the same with him. I'll set it at 20.5, and if the offense, if the rest of the ones go over, then he'll go over. So I'll set it at 20.5.
All right, that's funny, and I do find it funny. Like Biggs set up this. I've asked Matt Painter some set him up on a tee and let Matt Painter just hit it out of the park kind of question, and Biggs just set it up on a tee for Eberflus, and it was very telling that every time somebody sets it up for Flus to either give Nate Davis a pass or hold his feet to the fire, he is not holding back on Nate Davis at all. He's basically baiting the media a little bit like, hey, feel free to challenge this guy because that's what I'm doing. It does feel like that, the way he answers these questions. So I think the rubbers met the road in terms of Nate Davis needing to prove some things to Matt Eberflus. And again, as I started with some of my stuff I said earlier in the show, I think Matt Eberflus, in terms of earning my trust, Ryan Poles, I'll build the statue for him right now. That's how much I trust that dude. But Matt Eberflus still has a long ways to go in my world of earning my trust, just as a fan of the team and even somebody that's just covering it and watching it. But I got to admit, I had my questions going into camp and preseason, and each week he's starting to win me over a little more, but there's still a long way to go. Let's get into the season and let's see how prepared these guys are. But I think there's enough signs that show it's going in the right direction, not just for Caleb in the offense, not just for Jalen Johnson in the defense, but Matt Eberflus and his coaching staff as well. But we always know by the end of camp, I'm just living on cloud 9. That is Chicago Bears football. So let's get into some super chats. I'm going to rock off the first one here, Nick, because yesterday in my comments, as I fired off about 914 tweets because I couldn't be at practice and I just was so bored sitting at home, I was losing my mind. But Dre comes across my timeline in my mentions, $10 super chatting. He says, name pronounced Dre as in Andre. Thanks, Braggs, for listening to my song Bear Down by Dre. Bears Nation, smash up the likes and give the song a listen right after. And I shared it on Twitter yesterday. I'll share it again, but it is great. It is a very good song. And I'm not going to act like the fact that my name gets dropped, CHGO Bears gets dropped in this song as well. It's good stuff. And I'm going to give Dre all his flowers because it was really well done. And my favorite part of the song is he gives JD a good shout out. So shout out to JD. And he talks about the whole culture of the fan base. He talks about the team and the heart and soul that is the Chicago Bears. And then he gives some solid shout outs to the one and only Jeff Dickerson. So shout out to you, Dre. That was really nice work.
That's super dope. I got to check out the track.
Yeah, same.
I'll send it to you guys and I'll put it on Twitter here in a little bit. Let's run through some more of these here, Nicholas.
Yeah, $9.99 from Big Cram. I'll add to that. Poles and Flus are the best at head coach and GM combo when it comes to the shoe game. That is major facts. So just adding on to the Chicago Bears and the shoe game, we dominate. That's where we're at.
That's facts.
That's right. Gritty, $5 super chat. Braggs, do we have a weather prediction for kickoff tomorrow? Thanks for making the public practice cancellation at least fun yesterday. Yes, I was having I saw Guy Finley saying Guy Finley in the chat saying meatball meltdown hour. I was having a meatball meltdown hour on Twitter yesterday morning, and I was trying to play meteorologist, completely failed at that. I made a little joke about the Johnny Morris being at Halas Hall, and then Tom Waddle was shaming me for saying that dude. He's like, well, that dude is a really good wide receiver in our franchise, and he was also a great broadcaster. I'm like, I meant gentleman, Tom Waddle. I apologize. And then I'm getting the rain wrong. I couldn't go to practice. It wasn't a great day for me on Twitter yesterday, but we strive through tweet by tweet, brick by brick.
That was hilarious.
You weren't wrong though. Like you weren't wrong about what DJ and Keenan and Rome must have been thinking. Like this guy, him. All right, all due respect, salute, but really,
not Randy Moss. Yeah,
no.
Johnny Morris walking up and. Hey, it's great. Yeah, it was really funny.
That's hilarious. We got
more
a $1.99
on the franchise history than on him. You know what I mean?
Well, they have it is the Bears. Johnny Morris has the lowest wide receiver yardage for a franchise record of a team of any team in the NFL. It's only a touch over 5,000 yards. So, it's going to be DJ Moore's record soon. And then one day Rome will take it from DJ. That's the goal.
That is the goal. We have a $1.99 super chat from Inner Orbit Pinball. All right. Appreciate the love here with the Pinball 3 wizard. Heart emojis. And then we have
one fire away.
Yeah. And then we have a go ahead.
Football CF Candy, £4.99 sterling. Waldron in Seattle struggled in the red zone, but they also allowed the most pressure third downs, plus the worst online per PFF. How was the red zone look schematically? How has the red zone work looked schematically? In practices, it's looked okay. I mean, they win some, they lose some. We talked about the battle that they have with the defense. I think you probably sent this in when we were talking about how it looked in the game, and I was just referencing the fact that I don't think they wanted to kind of show much of it. But in practice, they've won their share. They haven't won as much the defense just because the defense is just a little bit better than them right now. But I don't think schematically it seems to be an issue.
Yeah, no, agree with that. Football CF Candy with a £1.99 sterling. Did anyone ask Flus about blitzing more this year? I mean, Herb, the question you asked about Jalen, what he can do on one side, I think kind of alludes to what the possibilities that Eberflus and Eric Washington can do with this Bears defense, knowing that you got a guy at corner that you don't have to really worry about. So it just opens things up. So, and you know what, with Kyler Gordon coming back too, that's where you can see those nickel corners blitz off the edge. And I think he's really good at that, and looking forward to seeing what he could do at that position this year.
I don't think it's so much about the quantity of blitzes, just the quality of them. When do you bring them? How do they look? Because I don't think ideally, I don't think they want to blitz more. They want to get there with 4, but then they want to bring some timely ones. And TJ is great with timing up his. Kyler's great with timing up his. Jaquan as well. So I don't know that they'll have more. You just want to see them be really, really effective when they do bring it.
Yeah, but Eberflus is not Brian Flores for Minnesota.
Right.
That dude's bringing
Right.
blitzes every
Just
single
bringing them from everywhere.
everybody.
Well,
But you don't
and-
have to do that to win.
Yeah, and you see how many times he drops a defensive lineman in coverage,
Oh.
right? So
Yeah.
sending up just to keep the offensive linemen on their toes. You're still sending 4, but it's a
Right.
different configuration of 4 each time, just to keep the wheels turning and make them think about something. So Crystal Simone jumps in. I knew she would. We all know who your secret admirer is, Herb, and that is one
I
Crystal
love
Simone.
you, Crystal. I appreciate it. It's an absolute joy to be back and confirmed, and confirmed that up with Jake a little bit ago, and I'm glad to be back on Mondays, and I'll be jumping in on as many Fridays as we can too.
Yeah, for sure, man. No pressure, but yeah, we'd love to have you as much as possible. You do a great job in that room when you're asking those guys questions, and you bring a great analytical perspective here to the program. And honestly, we all grew up Bears fans at the end of the day too. So
Thanks.
we all have a passion for this team beyond just covering it, and that's what makes what we do here special. And I think that's what's making a lot of what the industry is kind of starting to turn a little bit. I think the three of us are kind of an embodiment of a little bit of a change. Those guys, my guys over at 79th and Halas, Joe and Scott as well, like different guys getting into this thing that have a love for this team, but can still cover it, in a professional manner as well. And then you got me, and I wear a bag on my head. So there, we got the Giggities $5 super chat. Rags, you gonna shave the beard too and just have the stash like Nick for the season opener, or at least for November? I'll tell you what, if I make it to November and I don't add 50 pounds to this face and this waist, I'm having knee surgery a week from today, guys. So but I'm gonna do my best to attack my rehab and not let it get me back down the wrong track and having Taco Bell 5 days a week, because you guys know that I'm fully capable of that. But as long as I don't need my beard to cover up that second chin of mine, I will shave it and do a Movember and match Nick's Ditka stash. I've said, Herb, that Nick and Zach Pearson are slowly morphing into Mike Ditka every day.
I can see that.
Especially Zach Pearson. He literally is going to be Ditka by the end of camp. So we've got Mubs asking about the pregame show tomorrow. Of course, we will be live 11 a.m. Central Time. Hogue and I will be in studio. Nick will join us from Soldier Field, first time this season. I'm sure Herb will be sitting right next to him as per usual in the press box. So might even get a Herb cameo during our pregame hit with Nick. And so Carm, I think is getting ready to come back from vacation, but he's still got a couple more days. So me and Hogue will hold down the fort, and excited for another preseason game. So you'll have pregame and postgame and everything else in between for coverage locked in with CHGO Bears.
Hell yeah. We got what is this? Oh, Mexico? He
was asking how to get this. He was like, hey, Super Chat, I can't send anything from Mexico. He must have figured it out. Good job, Martino.
Yeah, Martino L. Thank you guys. Keep it up. Bear down football emoji. Thank you, Martino, for the Super Chat and for supporting the show. We really appreciate it here at CHGO.
100%. So, all right, guys. Well, this was fun. First preview show out the gate. We're starting to try to find our rhythm, just like the Bears are here for these preview shows for the year. And, we'll be bringing on different beat writers from some of the other teams as each week goes, week to week, try to bring on somebody that covers each of the teams that we'll face. And then obviously we'll get the breakdown from Herb and Nick, and then I'll do some ranting about whatever I can figure out. And that's kind of how these are going to go. And we'll have some fun with it this season.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time, you guys. Make sure you are subscribed to the CHGO Bears Podcast, or all of our podcasts at CHGO Sports. And also, if you haven't already, the 85 with Cole Kmet, you got to give that podcast a subscribe and like, and go tune in and check out the first episode that already debuted. There's going to be so much great Bears content throughout this, what should be a very fun 2024 season. Herb and I always talk about that when we're at Halas Hall. Like this has a shot to be a lot of fun, and just based off what we're seeing so far, it definitely can live up to the hype. But again, thank you everybody for hanging out with us on your Friday afternoon. We'll have everything you need to know from the Bears Bengals preseason game on tomorrow and the pregame and postgame. So come tune in for that. But we're going to call this a show, and we'll see you next time.
We all silly like the mayor.